Flight number 9973 for Rome, we are clear for takeoff. Oh my god, this can't be happening, can it? I looked around, feeling out of place already. I'm on the wrong flight. My hands clutched my thighs as the anxiety grew stronger. What am I going to do? I tried standing, but a flight attendant reached out and stopped me. You must remain seated until we hit cruising altitude. I can't! I'm on the wrong flight! Her eyes widen, and she cocks her head. I'm sorry, I can't do anything about it now. She sat down in the back, and the plane took off moments later. Too late for me to turn around. I sat in my seat, clenching my fingers as I tried to figure out what to do. Where did it go wrong? How did I end up with this ticket? It can't be right. I glanced at the name, realizing that another Jayce Rivers was boarding at the same time for the exact flight, and now that guy was heading to O'Hare International. Groaning, I rested my head back. What the hell do I do now? Something the matter? I looked to my right, finally processing who was next to me. Oh, hello, handsome. His smoldering dark brown eyes hypnotized me immediately, and the subtle scent of his cologne made me heady. The guy was deliciously attractive, and the Armani suit did not help. Rich and hot. How did I get so lucky? Now I feel like a bum in my college t-shirt and jeans. Oh, it's nothing, I replied. His hand touched my leg, resting on top of mine. Sparks ignited between us, the kind of thing you'd feel in movies. Come on, Jayce, it's not like you'll ever see this guy again. Judging from the way you look, it's far from nothing. How does he do it? I inhaled, doing everything I could to relax. I'm on the wrong flight. Not going to Rome? No, I was supposed to go home for Christmas to see my family, but now I'm heading to a country with no travel options. I don't know what I'm going to do, and shh. His hot breath, so dangerously close to my ear, had me thinking things I shouldn't have. I glanced around. No other patrons noticed it. It was like we were in our own little world. This guy was way too handsy, but I liked it. There was a sort of comfort to his touches. That, or maybe I just really needed to get laid. I hadn't since I broke up with Dex, my ex-boyfriend, freshman year of college. Sorry, I grunted. I'm just worried. It's fine. Just relax. Worry about tomorrow's problems when they happen. Now, let's change the subject. His hand rested on my forearm, and I unconsciously leaned in. Okay. What's your name? Jayce, I mumbled coyly. You? The man chuckled, his voice like liquid honey. Felippe. I'm here to see family for Christmas, and to vacation. Oh, you don't live there? I asked, still holding Felippe's hand. No, I'm a businessman. But if you need somewhere to stay, I'm sure we can find some accommodations for you. The implications in his voice made my brain short-circuit. I nodded, and for the rest of the 2 hours and some change flight, we talked. Well, more like we flirted like crazy. The guy kept giving me bedroom eyes, and I liked it. Older, hot as sin, but also sweet. When we landed, Felippe and I parted ways. He hugged me, and I stayed there for a bit longer. When he pulled away, Felippe chuckled. I'm sure fate'll bring us together again. Yeah, I hope so, I replied, flushing at the implications. He laughed, that tenor voice driving me mad. I'm sure of it. Felippe left, and I stood there, mesmerized but confused. Why did this guy like me so much? Would we really get another chance to meet like this? Little did I know that fate had a lot of plans in store for me, including one involving an attractive Italian man. 1 hour later. You can't be serious! I spoke at the counter, and the woman shook her head. I'm sorry, but there are no flights available back to the States. Please, I'll take a red-eye, anything! The woman clicked through, but then sighed. I'm sorry, sir, but we're all booked unless you want to take this flight in 10 minutes. I'll take it. The tickets are $3,000. Oh, not happening. Thanks, I muttered. I guess I'll stay. Check the travel dates. You might find some open seats. I'll try. I left, feeling anxious. It was 10 days until Christmas, and already traveling was a nightmare. I contacted my parents and explained the mess. They offered to pay for my hotel, which was nice. But then came finding a hotel. Everything was booked solid, minus a Westin. I snagged it using my parents' card. They weren't so happy, but what could you do? I got a cab and drove over there. I might as well make the most of this mess of an experience. 1 hour later. Just my luck. The receptionist shook her head. I'm sorry, but the room was double booked. Please, can you give me something? I'm afraid not, sir, she said, her voice deadpanned and tired. You can try another hotel in the area. Yeah, I would if I could. Everything's booked up. Something about some winter festival. I sighed, rubbing my temples. There is nothing. I tried to find something and... Jayce? That voice! I turned, and there was my Italian Adonis, standing there in a dress shirt and slacks. The shirt was partially buttoned, and a little bit of his chest hair peeked out. I caught myself staring, flushing a little. Felippe? What seems to be the matter? Hello there, Mr. Garcia. I'm trying to get a room for Jayce here, but we have nothing, the woman said, changing her tune the second Felippe inquired. Oh, that's a shame. There's nothing you can do about it? No, sir. He turned to me and touched my shoulder. This comforted me and stopped my racing heart. I have an extra bed. You want to stay with me? If my jaw wasn't dropping already, it sure was now. I was either the luckiest or unluckiest person alive, depending on who you asked. Sure. It won't be a problem, right? He shook his head. Not at all. You're free to stay until you could find a flight home. Thank you, I said, appreciative of his words. Felippe brought me to his room, which turned out to be the size of 3 dorms on campus. I settled in, but caught his eyes staring. Things were about to get interesting. Later that night, Felippe took me out for fish, his treat. We also got some gelato. As we walked back to the hotel, he turned. Our eyes met, and in the moonlight, he looked even more stunning. Jayce, he began, touching my face. Thank you. For what? I asked, the heat crossing my face again. For taking up this offer and making things a little less lonely. I know it's a little scary, being out here and unable to go back, but I'll try to help as best as I can to help create a comfortable experience for you. I smiled. Thank you, Felippe. That's sweet. When we met on the plane, it was almost magnetizing, like we were meant to be together. He closed the gap, making me heady. Maybe we are. I kissed him before I thought too hard about what I was about to do. He immediately reacted, grabbing my waist and driving me close to his chest. My hands felt up every fiber of his muscle. Hot and muscular. What a combination! His tongue pressed to my lips. I eagerly let him in, moaning softly. Eventually, he pulled away, the desire between us apparent. In a husky voice, he spoke. Want to head back to the room? I immediately knew what he was implying. With a nod, he whisked me to the room. I had the greatest night of my life, hooking up with an Italian heartthrob. The next day, Felippe took me on a date to the Forum and then to the Trevi Fountain. We stopped there for a small bite of lunch, and I sighed, enjoying the sights. This isn't so bad. Makes me realize that maybe ending up stranded in Rome isn't the worst thing ever, I teased. Felippe held my hand, and I enjoyed the touch. I like it too. It's fun to go on adventures like this with someone. Agreed, I said, sighing. My ex hated stuff like this. The guy was more interested in sitting on his butt in front of his computer. Needless to say, we didn't go out often. Oh, that's a shame. There's so much world to see, so much to explore. Yeah, there is. Makes me realize just how much I've been missing. Remember, the world is your oyster. You can enjoy it so much. I understand the feeling of being trapped. But while you're out here, you get to enjoy all the sights and be yourself. My heart warmed at those words. Somehow, Felippe knew exactly what to say. Thank you, Felippe. I'm not holding you back, right? Not at all. It's rare for me to explore places like this with someone. It's a treat for me, plus you look like a treat too. That husky voice was enough to die for. He kissed me again, and soon we made out in front of the Trevi Fountain, not caring about anything else but the feeling of each other's lips. The next day. Today, Felippe wanted to take me to a couple of special places. The first was the Roman Colosseum. We walked around together, hand in hand. Felippe told me all of the details, and I listened, completely enraptured by his words. Wow, you know so much. I lived here all my life. I've seen these sights before, but doing this with you is a whole new experience. I stood there, feeling a little embarrassed. I probably seemed like some dumb tourist. I'm sorry if I'm dragging you to all these touristy places. I just wanted to see them. Never know when I'd get to enjoy something like this again. Felippe closed the distance, giving me a soft kiss. When he pulled back, he smiled. Relax. Doing this with you brings me joy. You and your American ways are so funny, and it's a delight to hear you tell me these things. I smiled. Felippe loved hearing about them. From hamburgers to driving everywhere, the man listened with rapt attention. It made me realize how much he cared. Thank you, Felippe. That makes me happy. Good. There is one more place I want to show you, he encouraged. We finished our afternoon at the Colosseum and then moved to the Pantheon. This place was a Roman temple, and as the sun disappeared above us and the day turned into night, Felippe turned to me and smiled. I'm glad I met you, Jayce. If you wanted to stay, I wouldn't mind it. The thought conflicted with me. I still had school and a life back in America, but Felippe was a magical person. He somehow managed to draw out all of my concerns, morphing them into real feelings. I'll think about it. It's a lot, but relax. This is a vacation for you. We'll discuss the details later. He kissed my forehead, holding me tightly. By the way, I want to take you to a special place outside of the city tomorrow. It's where my parents are. You're sure about that, right? He nodded. It'll be special. I paused. It seemed like a good idea, but if Felippe and I got serious, it might be weird for us. I'd have to leave my life behind, all the people I enjoyed in the UK for him. Not to mention, he was older. The man was my Italian stallion, but I feared what falling in love with him might entail. What do you think? Felippe asked, pulling me from my thoughts. I agreed, feeling my heart race at the notion of Felippe and I going to meet his parents. Together it felt almost forward, but all this was so darn magical I loved it. I wouldn't be against us being together, but we'll have to talk about it. The next day, Felippe and I took a bus out to the outskirts of Rome. There we walked about half a mile to an olive grove. When we got there, Felippe introduced me to his parents, Bianca and Carlos. They were sweet. Felippe explained I was in town but didn't explain the details. They gave me a warm Italian welcome with plenty of food and fresh wine, too. After I had eaten and told him a little more about my adventures in America, Felippe took me to the olive grove. We walked around and Felippe told me about his experience growing up here. I listened, enraptured by his words. When we got to the edge of a cliff, he gestured to the crystal clear blue waters in the distance. I took in the view, in awe of its beauty. Wow. Beautiful, isn't it? It is. I'm really happy being here with you. This is a place I'd love to take you to again and again. I nodded and smiled. I would love that, Felippe. You've been amazing so far, and it's really opened my eyes to what I could have. A life out here with my gorgeous Italian boyfriend. An older man, but so sweet and caring. It feels right. He caressed my cheek and leaned in. I could come to the UK and stay with you while you study. Felippe, I want to be with you, Jayce. Think about my offer. Sure, but I'm worried about leaving my life behind. Plus, there's the age gap to worry about. We were both adults, but there was also the possibility of people judging us. Felippe pushed the strands out of the way and sighed. You're happy, right? If this is where your happiness resides, then you should follow the trail. He was right about that. It didn't feel like two people running into a relationship willy-nilly. We had a connection. Something magical and real. The last thing I wanted was to lose this. What if I never fall in love with anyone else? Missing this opportunity might change the course of my life forever. I smiled. I am, Felippe, and maybe it's for the best for me to follow the path that feels right. He kissed me again. We hooked up in the olive grove, away from watchful eyes. Afterwards, we went back to his parents' home and stayed in the guest bedroom. I struggled to sleep, feeling conflicted about what to do. Do I want to stay here with Felippe, or go back home? Both sounded right, so darn tempting, and had me conflicted on what's next. The next day, Felippe and I had a magical time. As we headed back, we got to the hotel. He turned, gesturing to a gelato place. I'm going to get some gelato. How's that sound? I'd love that. Felippe! I turned, seeing another older man walk towards us. This man looked like a dignified businessman. Immediately, Felippe frowned. Alejandro, what are you doing here? My book has taken me back to Rome, but it looks like you found a new boy toy. His leery gaze had me on edge. Felippe grimaced. He's here on accident. No flights home. Mm-hmm, sure. Alejandro got close, uncomfortably close to Felippe. I bit my lip, feeling unsure of what to do. I missed you, Felippe. We should meet up. Felippe stepped away, anger flashing across his eyes. Not interested. Oh, come now. Don't tell me this is your new hunt. And what if it is? He asked. Then I'm sorry. You could do better. Alejandro scoffed. Wow. I tensed up, balling my hands into fists. We have something special. Leave him alone, I spat out. It sounded pathetic, but it got his attention. Alejandro sauntered over to me and rested his hand on my shoulder. I moved away. You don't understand. Felippe doesn't settle down, and he knows how special our relationship was. I wouldn't get too attached because he does have a bad habit of getting handsy with everyone. Alejandro walked away, and I stood there, completely shocked. I walked over to Felippe. I'm sorry about... It's fine, Jayce, he muttered, averting his gaze. I'll go get us gelato. Felippe walked away, and I stood there, waiting for him to come back. An hour later. Okay, it's been well over an hour since he left. I walked over towards the gelato shop. Felippe isn't in there. I looked around, my heart racing. He couldn't have gone with Alejandro, could he? No, that's stupid. Felippe likes me. He wants to be with me. The man showered me with affection and gifts, and I know him. He told me about how he grew up poor on an olive farm and then started a business. Now he travels as a financial advisor for a big tech company. He had his misgivings about success, but he's doing just fine. I panicked. Turning the corner, I saw a guy that looked like Felippe. As I drew closer, I saw the shadows. It's Alejandro. He pushed Felippe against the wall and they were caught in an embrace. Heartbroken, I turned, ready to run away, when Felippe's voice called out. Jayce! No, you clearly want him. It's not like that. He pushed himself on me. Tears filled my eyes. I wiped them away, trying to quell my anger. No. I was stupid. I thought you were serious. I am, Jayce. I want to be with you, he cooed. Alejandro laughed. Feeding the guy the same lies you do to everyone? Felippe turned. No, I'm not. Whatever you say, Felippe. Just remember, you can't forget this. Alejandro walked away. Felippe touched me, but I moved. No, I'm leaving. Please, Jayce, I'm done. I was a fool for believing otherwise. I turned, ready to run away, when Felippe grabbed my hand. Our eyes met, a storm of emotions. If you change your mind, meet at our special place. I ran back to the hotel and grabbed my things. I headed to the airport, searching for flights. I was done. Felippe broke my heart, but he led me on. It was time for me to go. The next day, there was one flight. It was for an hour from now, and there was a reasonably priced ticket. My hand hovered over the mouse, ready to click on it. Come on, do it! Leave! The logical part of me told myself this, but there was another part of me that thought otherwise. I couldn't leave. Because of Felippe. Sure, what he did was wrong, but he was the best thing ever. The tug of war on my heartstrings was impossible to avoid. I wiped my tears, groaning. I might not be in love with him yet, but something felt right when I considered my options. Fine! I turned, grabbed my things, and headed to the bus stop outside. After reading the timetable, I got on. It was time for me to settle all of this, once and for all. 3 hours later. I walked into the olive grove. There he was, sitting. Felippe turned, his eyes wide and a smile across his face. Jayce! I walked him and put my bags down. Then, almost instinctively, I moved, wrapping my arms around him. I didn't know why I did it. It just felt right. His muscular, hardened body comforted me. Felippe patted my head, which reassured me. We looked at one another, and I wiped the tears away. Why, Jayce? Because I've fallen for you. I'm sorry for running away. It was a lot, and shh. It's all right. There was that shush again, but this time it relaxed me. providing the notion that everything would be okay. We stayed like this, enjoying the closeness of our bodies. As I pulled away, I wiped my tears. I like you, Felippe, a lot. I don't know if that's wrong of me, but no, it's not. I've fallen for you too. Alejandro was a bad man. He ruined my feelings for others. The man forced himself onto me, and I hated it. I'm sorry, I whispered. It's fine. These last few days have been magical, Jayce, opening me to so much. I want to take the plunge, to be with you. However, we can take things slow and not rush things. I'll help you with the transfer, and if you want to visit anyone, we can go together if you want. I don't want to let this go either. My eyes widened at the notion. I nodded. I want that too. I'm staying for Christmas. Told my parents this. Felippe grinned. Then we can spend Christmas together. My parents are having a celebration. That would be wonderful. We kissed under the olive groves, my heart happy and warm. Christmas Day. Christmas was different from the usual. I woke up at Felippe's parents' place. They set up a huge Christmas breakfast of traditional Italian pastries and coffee. We opened presents. I realized Felippe got me a locket with a picture from the Colosseum in it. I got him something too, while we were in Rome. Some notebooks, because he always used them, along with a tie. He loved it, and he put it on. We spent the day at his parents' and then went to the Parthenon at night. As we walked around, snow began to fall. Felippe smiled. It's rare for it to snow here. It is? He nodded. But it means this is special. That you're special. Good, I said, feeling contentment and happiness. I want to take it slow, though, if that's okay. Felippe nods. As slow as you need to take it. We leaned in, kissing one another once more. It was a soft, comforting kiss that brought me joy and happiness. Felippe was the perfect Christmas gift. Even though the plans were not what I expected, they opened the door to something more amazing. I was excited, especially since it meant more opportunities and possibilities waiting over the horizon. 6 months later. We agreed to do the long distance as Felippe and I dated. Well, it was more like Felippe would come and visit me to do business. He would meet up with me and we would go on dates in the UK. I saw my parents a couple of months later during spring break. I told them about Felippe and they were happy. I mentioned wanting to settle, and although they were hesitant, they supported me. Our relationship was long distance, but as we spent more time together, I realized I did love him. I wanted to be a part of his life and make him a part of mine. One night, after a dinner date, we went back to his hotel. As we sat on the bed and looked at the night sky, I turned to him. I'm thinking of transferring at the end of the semester. His eyes widened and his face broke into a beautiful smile. You're sure, right? I nodded. Yes. I took Felippe's hand and caressed it. I love you, Felippe. It took me a while to realize it. I wasn't sure if I wanted it, but this is what I want. He smiled. Good. I'll help any way I can. Under the moonlight, we shared a kiss, one filled with love and excitement for the future. Felippe helped me move to Italy after that semester. I finished my schooling there while still keeping in touch with my friends in the UK. My parents met Felippe and found it crazy I met someone so wonderful in Rome, of all places. Sometimes you have to expect the unexpected, which I've come to love. Felippe proposed to me a year later. Of course I said yes. I got to live in Rome with the man I loved in a heart full of happiness. The end. Have you ever met a stranger on a plane and fell in love? Let us know in the comments. Thanks for watching. Consider subscribing to become a part of our Rainbow Force and stay wholesome.